spring break was coming up, and we talked a lot about, what we want to do as a family. One of the ones we really were interested in doing, we've been to Costa Rica before, and I think just with the pandemic and this kind of being cooped up a little bit, I just had this just wanted to get out and do something adventurous and something fun and exciting and bonding for our kids. So we talked a lot about what we wanted to do, and Lance and I would stay up late nights, and I can't tell you, it was a lot of nights. Usually it's not so complicated for us to book a trip. We do a lot of traveling, and we kind of just pick a place and we go. And it wasn't working out that way this time. It was very strange. So we kept staying up late at night, and we would explore all these options, and nothing was working, and we weren't sure what was going on. It was getting a little frustrating because this was over weeks of time, and it was getting closer to spring break. And one night in particular, it was like a Thursday night, I feel like it was the week before spring break, and I was like, we have to do this tonight. We've got to get something booked. So we sat down, same thing. We could not figure out what felt right, nothing was working. And it was just so odd. And Lance says, you know what, I just don't think it's meant to be. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's spring break. There's nothing meant to be about spring break. It's a trip that you go on. You choose where you want to go, and you go. And so I just told him, fine, I'm just going to book it myself. And he just laughed, and he was like, okay, go ahead. So he left the next morning. I sat down, tried to book it, and I got all the way through to checkout, and I couldn't click complete. And I just sat there, I'm like, what is going on? I don't know why, but I physically could not do it. The oddest thing. And so he got home and he was like, so did you book it? And I said, no, I couldn't do it. And he just laughed, and he's like, I told you. And then he was quiet for a minute, and he said, maybe we're supposed to go help. And I was like, immediately I knew what he was talking about. We had, the week prior, we showed our kids the documentary Winter on Fire, and it was about the revolution that happened in Ukraine back, 8 years ago. And that documentary, for whatever reason, it just really bonded us to the Ukrainian people, and seeing what they were going through, and then understanding they just went through this, and now all these people that we saw in the documentary, and you grow to have this love for and respect for, realizing those are real people, and they're going through this all over again in a bigger way even now. So it had been a constant conversation in our home, everything that was happening in Ukraine, and we were watching the news like crazy, and he said we're supposed to go help, so I knew what he was talking about, and I just had to think about it. I don't jump into stuff ever. Lance is the one that just jumps in, and I take a little more time, and I thought about it, and I came back to him, and I was like, yeah, we're supposed to do this. And he had suggested Poland in his processing, and so as soon as he said that, we just rolled forward with it, and we booked our tickets that night, and everything just kind of kept rolling forward. And it's really hard to explain kind of how the feelings, everybody knows they've had these feelings where you just, without words, you can't explain when you're supposed to do something. And it was so strong. And the more that we moved forward and the more we acted on that, the stronger the feeling was. So people thought we were crazy. We got all kinds of, opinions and, advice. And if anybody knows me personally, they know that I'm not a public person. All this stuff is really hard for me, the attention and things. But I recognized really early on, because we didn't know what we were supposed to be doing. We had no idea what we were supposed to be doing there. We knew we were supposed to go, but we didn't know what. And we didn't know what it would look like. We'd done humanitarian trips before, but they were very different from this. One, it was us just acting on our own. And two, it was a crisis situation, so we'd never been in this particular type of situation. So I just had to right away get over myself and, what people were going to think and what people were going to say, and just start opening my mouth and asking for help and telling people what we were going to do. And yeah, I got some really crazy looks and lots of, opinions, but, overwhelmingly when people understood and they heard our story and they understood why we were doing what we were doing, they were very supportive. And from that, I started getting connections, and I just had to ask. I'm like, and some of the connections weren't great connections, and some of them, in fact, were pretty discouraging connections. People down on us for what we were trying to do, but we were led to a man named Will through some super miraculous events. He was on the phone. He's a man from Utah, or from Idaho, sorry, who his son and he had gone out to help. Same thing. They just felt like they should do it. It started with Michael, and he called his dad Will, and they were out there. And he was on the phone with his wife, Robin, who lives in Idaho still, or is still there, and they were praying, and he just was overwhelmed with the amount of need, and that he just felt like he was, the way he described it to us was, it was like being on a little tiny raft going toward the Titanic, and he just was just desperate for help. And so he was praying with his wife on the phone, and as soon as they ended their prayer, my friend Heidi, who is related to them, she had just found out what we were doing. I had asked her for help. She texted Robin and said, hey, I have this family, and my friend and her family, they're coming out to Poland to help, and they want to know what they can do. And so it was a really amazing connection for both of us, for Will and Robin to know that Heavenly Father was literally listening to them in that very moment and was aware of what they were trying to do, and then for us to understand that, you know, Heavenly Father had already been putting these things in place, and it was just a confirmation for us that we were doing exactly what He wanted us to do. So we were in a lot of contact with Will over those next few days, and it was just kind of our lifeline of understanding, you know, how we could help. We kind of figured out with Lance, we knew what he would be doing. He could drive. That's what Will was mainly doing. They were driving people back from the border and taking them, all over Europe. So wherever they needed to go. So we kind of knew that was a role that Lance could fulfill, but I wasn't sure what the kids and I were going to be doing. And, and I was trying not to get discouraged because I felt right, and, trying not to listen to the voices of people saying that we shouldn't be bringing our kids into the situation because it felt right. And particularly bringing my kids, like, I just felt like it was a good thing to do. And so in spite of it, my natural inclinations as a mother, but we're talking to Will one of the nights, and he had teamed up with these 3 guys from the UK that had done the same thing, just all these amazing people just hearing the call and just showing up. And they'd been working with them, kind of like teamed up together, driving people, and they were gonna have to go home. And so we're talking, it was a Wednesday night, we were still a week and a half out from when we were gonna be coming, and Lance, he told us that he was losing these drivers on Saturday, and Lance looked at me, and I just knew, I knew he was going to be going early. So we got off the phone with him, and he booked the next possible flight, and that was for Friday morning. So he's just a whirlwind of Thursday, trying to get ready and get out of the country and get situated for everything, he had going on at home. And then he was gone. So he went out a week early, and it was a very good thing because he kind of got the lay of land, knew where we would stay, like total assurance at this point, because now he was boots on the ground and he could see what was happening, and he's like, it's 100% safe. We're definitely, the kids, it's no question they're gonna come. And so that gave me a lot of comfort, knowing that the feelings I've been having that it was okay were true and correct. So, and we left on March 19th. We got on a